On Sunday afternoon, we were treated to a Premier League classic between Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and Eddie Howe's Newcastle side. Both teams tactically exploited each other throughout, and we saw where both teams had big weaknesses and big holes, which they do need to improve on moving forward. Despite two significant changes in Jurgen Klopp's lineup, the mindset and the tactical plan did not change. Liverpool went toe-to-toe with Newcastle from the get-go. However, once Van Dijk got sent off within the first half, Liverpool's tactical setup changed, and it was starkly different to how they started off the game.
Yeah, the approach to go toe-to-toe from Liverpool against Newcastle was an interesting one by Klopp, considering how intense Newcastle were, and at a ground like St James's Park. It was definitely certainly an interesting choice that not many managers will make this season.
However, Liverpool do have a fantastic record away at St James's Park and haven't lost there in a number of years.
And this definitely played into the hands of Newcastle, who used the new debutant Endo as sort of a trigger point to activate the press.
Do you think because this was his first start in a Liverpool shirt, they looked to target him, or do you think they would have targeted any DM who was playing there for Liverpool?
I do think it's because obviously it was his first game, his debut, and I think still getting used to the system.
First game or first start, wasn't it?
First start, first start. So he's still getting used to the system, obviously, and especially at the ground like St James's Park, you're going to be sort of you're going to feel the pressure. If you've just joined the Premier League and obviously you've just been chucked straight into the deep end with arguably the hardest away game that the Liverpool could have in terms of atmosphere. So I do think that was maybe on purpose by Newcastle to sort of set that trap up for Endo and use him to activate the press, which is why I did think Newcastle did find some success in that area and obviously didn't make Endo look great. The decision to match Newcastle from Klopp resulted in many individual battles with the likes of Joelinton and Szoboszlai here, and Tonali and McAllister here, and even Isak and the two centre-backs of Matip and Virgil van Dijk. But one in particular was Gordon and Trent, Anthony Gordon and Trent, as Gordon significantly got the better of Trent in the first half. And this is because Trent plays very narrow compared to most fullbacks. So Gordon really had the option to run at him on the inside and on the outside, where most fullbacks come wider to show the winger down the line, where they have cover for the midfielders coming back here. So the likes of Szoboszlai, Endo obviously, and McAllister who dropped back, whilst also having obviously bodies in the box of Matip and Van Dijk and Robertson in there. So you'd have a lot more defensive cover as a fullback. Because Trent was so narrow, it meant that Gordon could go in both sides, and as you saw in the game, it caused many issues for him. And this is how Trent did receive his yellow card, which didn't help him at all. So Zach, would you say that had an effect on him, resulting in his mistake that ended up making Liverpool go 1-0 down?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that, because in the second half, it's interesting to see that Newcastle didn't exploit Trent's side more with him being on a yellow, because if Gordon was running at him second half and Trent makes a wrong move, he could have been sent off, and obviously that would have affected Liverpool even more after we know what happened with Van Dijk. But yeah, that goal that Liverpool conceded early doors, that was really, really poor from Trent. Salah played a simple ball back to him, and because Gordon was pressing him and Trent's mind wasn't in the right place, he was a bit frantic within that opening 20-25 minutes. He obviously a poor touch, and Trent does this a lot. Sometimes he switches off, or sometimes maybe the pressure gets to him, but it was just really poor from him, and obviously Anthony Gordon run through and slotted it through Alisson's leg. So yeah, if he wasn't on a yellow card, or if he wasn't rattled by Gordon in that opening 10-20 minutes, maybe that wouldn't have happened, but the pressure was on. Trent was on a yellow, and Gordon was just a pressing machine that opening 10-20 minutes and just made Trent look like a bit of a mug, which is unfortunate to say, because obviously I am a Liverpool fan, I want him to do well, and I hate Anthony Gordon. But, it is what it is, it's football, and yeah, that's how the opening 20-25 minutes sort of panned out.
Yeah, Anthony Gordon had a fantastic game, to be fair, as much as it would hurt to say for you. But, yeah, I also do think that Trent's yellow card had a part to play in Van Dijk's red card, as that was where we saw Gordon pick up the ball on the inside here, and obviously Trent playing in that arrow position. He didn't want to obviously press Gordon, and Gordon just was sort of allowed to run through, which is where we saw Isak make that through run, and Gordon obviously allowed to play that ball due to no pressing from Trent, and Van Dijk ultimately made that challenge. But this is how Newcastle did get so much joy in that first half against Liverpool, by using their wingers and coming inside alongside the consistent running and tenacity of Joelinton and Tonali. But Van Dijk's red card did change the game, didn't it?
Ultimately, Van Dijk's red card did affect Liverpool, but not in a negative way like you may think. Going down to 10 men usually negatively impacts the team, it makes them worse, but in Liverpool's case, it made them better, because Gomez came on for Luis Diaz to retain that back four shape. McAllister, Endo and Szoboszlai were the midfield three, and then you had Gakpo and Salah up top. So it was a 4-3-2 when Liverpool had the ball, but when Liverpool didn't have the ball, Gakpo would drop in, and it would ultimately become a 4-4-1 with Salah as that lone man up top, just to stretch the defence and make runs in behind. So this created a lot of compactness in the midfield, and that's where Liverpool dominated Newcastle with the 5-on-3. Tonali, Joelinton and Guimaraes against McAllister, Endo, Szoboszlai, Gakpo and Salah. They were ultimately going to lose that battle. More bodies in midfield. And because the fullbacks did sit deeper than they did first half, Newcastle could exploit down the width. So they looked to go centrally. And obviously, like we said, because it was so compact in there, Liverpool stifled Newcastle. And it really did affect the home team.
Yeah, and the substitutions that were made, without doubt, caused the biggest impact on the match. So, Zach, how did Klopp manage to completely change the game with these subs?
Those 3 substitutions where Klopp brought on Elliott, Jota and Núñez for Endo, Gakpo and McAllister were very, very key. It helped Liverpool become more defensively solid, which may seem weird because you're bringing off 2 midfielders, but the way Liverpool were able to become compact with Núñez as that lone striker to stretch the Newcastle backline was very key and ultimately won Liverpool the match. And some people may say Núñez should have come on earlier, but at least he came on because he was the man for the big occasion.
Absolutely.
Also, it's worth a mention that Tonali came off and Longstaff came on, and he didn't play very well, Longstaff, but it was probably just an injection of fresh legs from Eddie Howe because Tonali did run his arse off throughout the whole match. Jota and Salah were very key in this too because they're both very disciplined players. They helped tuck alongside Elliott and Szoboszlai to create a midfield 4 for that extra compactness and extra stability in the middle third. And obviously, Elliott and Szoboszlai being the 2 technical players in the middle helped with ball retention and ball possession too. Klopp bringing on Núñez for Gakpo was a brilliant substitution because Gakpo, he's more of a technical player. He likes the ball to feet more. He's more play it into him, lay it off. Whereas Núñez loves to run those channels and he will run them all day. And because Newcastle shifted up probably, I'd say, 10 yards or so up the pitch because Liverpool had 10 men to keep Liverpool pinned within their own half, there was lots of spaces in those channels and Núñez had a field day. Those 2 goals he scored were just so good because he was running down those channels, running in behind Newcastle's high back line, and because they lacked pace, he made them pay with those 2 strikes. And the way he hit them with such venom. He hasn't started the first 3 league matches, so you could clearly see he wants to be on the team sheet for next week.
Yeah, them 2 goals were definitely massive for Núñez. You could see that when he was celebrating them. And hopefully we could see an improved and better Núñez throughout the season to obviously challenge for that starting 11 and get in and play some games.
And obviously for Núñez's second goal, Dan Burn came in and filled in at centre-back from left-back because of Botman's injury. And although both players aren't very fast and Núñez would have exploited either of them equally, Dan Burn isn't as good of a defender. And when you're having a positional change mid-match against a player like Núñez who will hassle you and he will run at you, it effectively really helps when Liverpool scored that second goal.
Yeah, Dan Burn shifting over to the centre-back position definitely did have an effect on Newcastle for a negative reason, as you said. And what you could see, so the second goal, Dan Burn, you could see it wasn't natural to him. He had sort of no clue, but he definitely was very confused in that position because in that second goal, he sort of tried to play an offside trap, but then was also very deep. So as Núñez is running, Dan Burn sort of stopped, but he was behind him, so it sort of made no sense. And perhaps if you had Botman there, I know he did make a mistake early in the game, but perhaps if you did have Botman there, a little bit more intelligent in that second centre-back role, perhaps that could have been prevented. But as we saw, Núñez went and got a goal and got Liverpool the win.
So that was how Jurgen Klopp and Eddie Howe produced a fascinating tactical battle and ultimately how Liverpool came out on top. It did catch a lot of us by surprise. When I was watching it, I thought when Liverpool went down to 10 men, it was game over. I thought we wouldn't get back into the match at all. But then all of a sudden, for a few tactical tweaks from Klopp and a few different personnel brought on from Eddie Howe, it completely changed the game. So yeah, it was interesting to see how both teams set up, and moving forward, it'd be interesting to see if Núñez gets more of a run in the team, if Longstaff plays, I don't think he will, or how they'll cope with the Botman injury as well, because he's a very key player for Newcastle. So yeah, that was how both teams set up tactically. Thanks for watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and we'll catch you in the next one.